Hello friends and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Let's start our video with the story in which our OP got a nice bonus because one person turned out to be an a-hole. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Received someone else's frequent flyer gift. My new wife and I recently took a trip to Denver on a United flight. I fly often, but not as often as some other people. When I booked the flight, the plane was fairly empty, so I booked the window and aisle seats in premium economy section right behind first class, leaving the middle seat empty. By the time we actually flew, the flight was nearly full, so I checked the seat chart and noticed someone took the seat between us. No biggie, when we get on the flight, we'll just offer the window or aisle seat to whoever booked the middle seat. Boarding time came, we were in Group 2, so the pre-boards in Group 1 got to go before us. When it was our turn to board and we got into our seats, there was an older man sitting in the window seat. I thought that was kind of a D move just to take someone else's seat without asking. Obviously, this guy has flown before since he had pre-boarding status without having young kids, was not disabled, and definitely wasn't in the military. I let it go since we were going to switch seats anyway. Soon after the flight took off, the attendant came up to me with a gift bag and congratulated me for achieving 1K status. The gift bag wasn't for me, it was for the guy that took the window seat without asking. He obviously knew what he was doing and has probably done this before. The guy was looking out the window all through boarding and never turned his head to acknowledge us until the flight attendant came over with the gift bag. I accepted his gift bag and the flight attendant asked if I'd like a complimentary drink as well. Of course I said yes, and even got a free glass of wine for my wife too. I glanced at the guy and could see the anger in his eyes, but he didn't say a thing. Petty win for me over this guy that took my seat that I would have given him, but instead he took it without asking. And our second story. Scare the living daylights out of me? Prepare to be annoyed. Obligatory, this happened last night. My husband is military and had duty, leaving me alone overnight. As per usual, I let the dog sleep with me since there's enough room in the bed now. I managed to fall asleep about 1:30 a.m. Being 5 months pregnant is beginning to get uncomfortable and falling asleep has become a challenge, so I was thankful to fall asleep at a relatively acceptable hour. My a-hole dog had other plans. He decided he wanted something downstairs at 4:30 a.m. and started shrilly barking for 20 minutes. Typically, I'd go downstairs and check things out, but I wasn't about to risk my unborn child's life over people trying to steal my Xbox, so I laid in bed stewing in anger. When he was done being a little crap, he jumped up and laid down next to me like he usually does. All the barking tired the poor little guy out since I was wide awake and the baby kicking my guts prevented me from getting comfortable. I decided he deserved a little punishment. So for the next hour, whenever I noticed he fell asleep, I poked him until he woke up. Take that, you little brat. And our third story. Ruin my lawn and harass my family? Hope your job security is good. Bit of background. I've known the people that committed these actions for quite a while. Some of them were good friends, some I had no beef with at all. Then they went rogue for no apparent reason. Anyway, this happened a month ago and it progressed ever since. My family and I live in a rather quiet neighborhood and like to mind our business. There are a few selfish individuals who live in my town who enjoy to harass people, do drugs, and generally get up to no good. The main ringleader is a person I went to school with. He left a few years ago to go to a military school for whatever reason. I wouldn't know. Let's call him Degenerate. One Sunday night after midnight, Degenerate and his friends decide it'd be funny to get in his car, drive out to my place, and do skids on our front lawn by the road. I notice these marks the next morning when I'm walking down to the bus, and Degenerate is the first person that comes to mind when I think about who could have done it. Later that day, I sent him a message via social media asking if he knew anything about it. He replied with, "Nah, man, I don't have my car, it's getting fixed." All right, whatever, I believe you. The next night he comes back again. This time my lawn is absolutely torn to pieces. Having a lot of rain in the previous days, they're deep too. I was boiling with anger at this point. Later that evening, at 5:15 p.m., this'll mean something later on, I was walking down the road with one of my friends and Degenerate drives past with 3 or 4 other mates in his car. I recognize at least one person in the car who'd been a friend of mine until he got into drugs and completely went off the rails. Now, here's where the time that I saw him becomes relevant. I send him a message on the Tuesday asking if he was involved in it. He denies it again, his reason being that he'd taken his car to get the back windscreen replaced at 5:15 on Monday. The glass repair shop closes at 5. Why would he be going there to get it fixed with 3 to 4 other people? It doesn't add up. By then, I'd proved that he had his car on Monday night and he was lying. As for the Sunday night car possession, he then said he did have it on Sunday night. Either way, I proved to him that he did have his car both nights. As I later found out, he'd come to my school on Monday and was bragging to my friends about how he did the skids on my lawn and that he wanted me to find out by myself. Degenerate never figured that they'd come straight to me. Fast forward roughly 3 weeks down the road, and I'm at a party and Degenerate is there. He comes up to me and says, "Oi, OP, how are the skids on your lawn?" Ha ha ha, while breathing smoke from his blunt in my face. This all died down for a couple weeks until a week ago they came again, but with another truck with mud tires. My parents heard it happening but didn't think it was them doing skids on our lawn. Lawn took a pretty good beating that night, and there were feces from either a dog or human that appeared there on the same night. My father had already contacted the police after the first set, but they said they couldn't do anything. They were contacted again, and we have license plates and names, etc. They said they'd go and visit them on Monday. Fast forward a couple days, and my parents receive a letter anonymously accusing my father of having an affair with the writer's mother. Infuriated, Dad goes to the police again, and they open a police file and make a note for harassment. Degenerate's a known drug dealer, so he tells them that too. So in his police file, there are notes for harassment and that he could be a drug dealer. I know he is for sure, but the police can't do anything about it yet. The revenge is just getting started. I suggested that we should go to his employer, who hired him about 2 weeks ago. Father rings up Degenerate's employer and chats with them and details what Degenerate has been doing to my family. Employer is thoroughly disgusted and wants to have a meeting in person with my dad. The meeting was with the big boss and branch manager. Yesterday, Degenerate got sent home from work, and after today's meeting, the managers are seriously PO'd and going to sort him out. Since he's on a 90-day trial, he could lose his job. But if that happens, I'll actually gather evidence that he's selling crappy pills and his house will get raided. Degenerate is also a keen outdoorsman, but with the police file he's acquired with his actions, this means he'll never be able to get a gun license or get a job where you get a police check, any job that has security involved. The revenge isn't finished yet, but he's pretty effed already, and it's been very satisfying. Nice one going to his employer. This type of degenerate has to face consequences before they'll stop. And our last story. Dear manager, say goodbye to your job. Gather around as I tell you the story of the time I got fired at the worst place I've ever worked. From day one, it was a nightmare. There was zero onboarding or training. I was simply given the login info for a couple of different websites and told to get to work. The company planned large conferences, and I was in charge of speaker coordination. I was the only person in this role. The information solely resided with me. Not a big deal, I say to myself. I'm good at thinking on my feet. I'll just ask questions when I need clarification on something. That turned out to be impossible. My manager's first language wasn't English. I'm all for learning new languages. I think it's a great skill to have and takes a lot of work, and being able to speak multiple languages is impressive. The problem was that her English was so poor that it was often very hard to understand what she was trying to say. I once asked if she had time to hop on a call and explain something to me, and she responded with, "No, Crane, self-skills is a must. I am bird without head." Took me a few days to figure out that she was trying to say that things were hectic. She was running around like a chicken with its head cut off, and she needed me to be self-sufficient. Regardless, I did my best in the position. Small mistakes happened here and there, but overall, all the speakers were very happy and felt well supported. I struggled on the communication with my manager, but I thought the company was happy with my work. Until 4 months in, when I was randomly pulled into a meeting with my manager, HR, and legal. Effective immediately, I was fired. I asked why I was being fired and why this was the first I'd heard of any problems. Why wasn't there a write-up or a verbal warning? My manager said it was because the 10 minutes, I ran the analytics, it takes me to respond to an email was too slow. Well, that was a bullcrap reason, and we all knew it. If you don't like me personally, fine, but don't try and make this seem like I was a bad employee. To be honest, I was furious. We do the exit interview with HR, and then she asked me to send over any documents I had. We worked on personal computers remotely and describe where I was in regards to our next event and our speakers. NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, are really common in this field. I've signed one at every job I've ever worked. But this employer's NDA had a clause in it that worked to my advantage. I said, "As per my NDA, I'm not to discuss intimate details or share documents relating to this position with any employer, past or future. Since this firing was effective immediately, you are now a former employer, and I am bound by my NDA." HR hemmed and hawed a little bit, telling me that of course I could speak to them about it. This was about their event. I pulled out my copy of the NDA, always save contracts, and pointed out the exact clause and said that it clearly stated that if I violated this NDA, I'd be sued. So no, I couldn't talk to them about the position. HR turned to legal, and legal pointed out that I was technically correct. They were a former employer, and I was bound by my NDA. They fired me 17 days before the event. They didn't have time to start over from scratch. I still keep in contact with some of my coworkers, and apparently the event was a crap show, and the evil manager lost her job because of it. Over half the speakers pulled out once communication broke down, all because I take too long to respond to emails. That's effing great. Their own legal team backed you up. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.